How's it going, friends? It's a pleasure to be here with you once again, bringing you another episode of your podcast. As always, we're trying to help you gain more knowledge of this entire environment and to know the stories, the characters, and also to discover that not everything is as it seems, as there is a lot of misinformation on social media. So, we are here to try to communicate the reality of Ocran. Well, friends, today we will talk about a topic that was requested some time ago, and as always, I did some digging to bring you the most accurate and real account of how things happened. As you may have seen in the episode title, I am referring to the approach and, shall we say, the peace treaty between members of the family of the legendary Lord of the Skies and the Licenciados from El Dorado. We'll also talk a bit about Julio Cesar, one of Amado's sons, and why there was a conflict with the people who resigned him, and get to know some aspects of the Carrillo family of Amado, Vicente, and others. Well, dear audience, you know the drill. Get comfortable, grab your favorite drink and snacks, and get ready, because this episode is going to be a good one. As always, exclusively here, because you know that elsewhere they always copy what we say here. But unfortunately, they rarely give us credit, but we continue to inform you here. I suppose everyone has heard the name Amado Carrillo Fuentes, and I imagine that, like me, many of you have watched the famous TV series El Señor de los Cielos. Here I am going to show you the logo of the series on the screen. Well, first of all, let me tell you that this series is fictional. Of course, it has many events that did happen, and characters that did exist, but only in the first season. And let me tell you, I believe that about 30 or 40% of what you see in the first season is real, and 60 to 70% is fiction. From the second season onwards, it has nothing to do. And listen carefully, it has absolutely nothing to do with the Lord of the Skies. So let's assume that 99% of what happens there is fiction. And what happened is that they made a huge compilation of stories from different characters, and they all linked them to the character of the Lord of the Skies, because the series had been very successful, and they had to keep taking advantage of it. That's why they kept adding and adding stories that had nothing to do with the character. Well, I'm telling you all this because this series is very important for this episode, and later on, we'll understand why. Amado Carrillo is a true legend of the Ocran. No wonder when the psychologist asked Pocha who he admired, he immediately and without hesitation answered Amado Carrillo. And when they asked him why, Pocha said because of everything he had achieved. So if a character like Pocha admired the Lord of the Skies, just imagine, with that alone, we can see that Mr. Amado really was a legend. Here, I'll show you a picture of him. This guy had huge connections in both politics and the military, and obviously in the DFS, the Federal Direction of Security. In fact, even right now, there are some soldiers who were friends with Amado who are generals, as well as politicians who were bribed by Amado and currently hold high government positions in Mexico. I don't want to delve into the life of this character because he is not the main topic of this episode. So I'll only give you some small details so you can know him better. The Lord of the Skies owned countless properties of all types. Mansions, estates, hotels, shopping centers, clinics, stadiums, commercial land, agricultural land, industrial warehouses, and so on. Well, rather, an endless amount of properties and in the realm of women. Well, imagine, he was quite a Don Juan. More than one artist and singer were on his list of women who, you can imagine why. No need to say more. This man had a very advanced mentality for his time. He made connections wherever he went, especially with women, all with impressive calculation. You already know he was famous for using planes to move all the product from Colombia to Mexico. Personally, the narco corridos I like most are those about Amado and Arturo. For example, I highly recommend one called Prueba de Fuego, and also the one called Como Perros, both composed by the same person, Mr. Rigo Lopez from the group Los Pavos Reales del Norte, and the corrido says that the government is like an auction, it's sold to the highest bidder. Don't trust even if you're settled because, as you see, it's treacherous. Very precise and accurate words, and it will always be like that. The corrido says this because, as I mentioned at the beginning, Amado had bought many government officials and from many sectors. Different ones, the judiciary, the military, and many more. In fact, Amado's power was such that he had control over the military. They would receive the Lord of the Skies or his family at airports in official vehicles from the Department of Defense. They would pick them up from the plane, escort them, and settle them in the best hotels in Cancun and Acapulco. On one occasion, Amado's family went on vacation to Cancun. So that you can understand, first of all, one of the problems that existed between the Carrillos and the Guzmans. Here I will give you the context of what was happening. First of all, everyone accused Amado of being, and in those years, Julio Cesar Carrillo Leyva was one of the most popular youngsters in Culiacan, Sinaloa. Just imagine, he was the son of the Lord of the Skies and had the full support of his uncles, Viceroy and Rodolfo. So, he was practically untouchable. And to top it off at the time, Cesar also had the protection of Yoma. And he was like a nephew to Yoma. In fact, the friendship between Yoma's children and Cesar was so strong that they lived together. That's right. Cesar lived in one of Yoma's son's house. And as I mentioned, at that time, Cesar had a lot of money and drove the most luxurious and eye-catching vehicles in Culiacan, like a Cadillac Escalade or a Hummer H1, and he was very famous in Culiacan. Everyone knew him, and everyone respected him. Well, they were on their way to the airstrip, and a friend of ML said, "I bet you $10,000 that problem won't be solved. That family hates you. Anything involving the Pocha and you guys, they'll never want to fix." And ML said, "Deal. $10,000 is the bet." They shook hands on it, and they reached the airstrip, and the Licenciado said that it sounded good, that he wanted to resolve the issues, but first he needed to send a message to Pocha to see if he agreed to make peace with the Carrillo family. And so he did. He sent a message to Pocha through the lawyer, and the following week, the lawyer went to El Dorado with a positive response that he agreed to end the problem and come to an agreement. So they went to Yoma and told him about the plan. They said Pocha agreed to resolve the issues. At that, Yoma got up from his chair, gave the Licenciado a big hug, and said, "I'm glad you're taking care of this." "Really? Congratulations, Licenciado," immediately. He asked what they needed from him to finalize this, and he said they had his support to solve the issue. Then the Licenciado asked if he could talk to the Carrillo family to see if they were willing to put an end to this long-standing problem. Oh, And something very important that I almost forgot, as I was saying, since they had never worked before, the first kilo that Cesar bought. He put it in a frame and he hung it on the wall. And since that was the first kilo he bought entirely, and it marked the start of his work there. But you know how Cesar liked to get a little carried away. One time when LML went to that house, he asked Cesar, "Hey, where's the kilo you had here in the living room?" Cesar laughed and said, "I was so high, I couldn't take it anymore, and I was out of stuff. I had to rip it up." That was the end of Cesar's kilo. Chacho said, "Yeah, honestly, my cousin couldn't wait, so we had to take it down in Altata." But early on, Montana had told ML that Ivan's people had reported they were entering Nabolato and were asking for a radio to monitor the whole area and to report anything. They were in a caravan, and Archivaldo was in a G-Class Mercedes with Sergio El Latigo and several other trucks. Coincidentally, don't go at all, and told Montana. Send one of the guys to ask if they can please turn off the lights because they were about 200 to 300 meters away. And ML told Cesar, "Don't make a fuss, it's Ivan. We should avoid any trouble." And with that, Cesar's expression changed because he knew what was up with Ivan. Friends, we have reached the end of the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. You know we bring you exclusive stories and anecdotes. Only the truth. Don't forget to leave your comments and follow us on social media. You know, Instagram, Facebook, etc. We're still working to bring you good stories, and you know, I'm keeping a close eye on the conflict happening in Culiacan. But since the Instagram gossip accounts have kept you well informed, I haven't released an episode because you can see everything that's happening almost in real time there. But soon enough, I will also inform you about what has been happening. Don't miss it. You know that the unique and real narrative of the Ocran world can only be found here. Sending a hug to all of you and see you in the next episode. Until next time.